Welcome everyone to Comics From The Multiverse, episode 329. I had to think about that there.
Oof.
I am Peter, joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, what's up?
This is a DC Comics podcast. We get together, we talk about DC Comics we read this week. Coming up on this week's show, we have Batman issue 129, Gotham City Year 1 issue 2, the new Champion of Shazam issue 3, Poison Ivy issue 6, The Dark Knights of Steel issue 8, and I've got a Patreon book that I'm going to do, which is American Vampire issue 30. So that is what's coming up this week. It was a lighter week, which is nice because the last 2 weeks were both pretty... Partly because, we had the week off and we had to make up for it, but it made for 2 busy weeks. So it was nice to have a chill week, especially as I got almost no sleep last night. So I was thankful for a lighter load today.
Yes.
Very thankful.
Now, is that by choice because you've been busy?
Oh, not at all. I fell asleep early thinking, oh great, I'm going to get a nice long sleep, and woke up like 3 hours later and couldn't get back to sleep. And
that's the worst.
Yeah, I hate it. It's absolute diabolical. But here we are. We'll get into things. Yeah, not much in the way of news or anything this week. Although one small thing: Stargirl season 3's its last season. I think that was this week.
Oh, I should watch season 2 now.
I don't know how much they knew it might be the last season, and if they were planning on ending it, or having a sort of plot that wrapped up without a cliffhanger. But yeah, so that's that. Which basically, I believe, because Flash has got one last season, but they announced that was the last season already. Superman and Lois is the last superhero show on the CW that is still technically active, and that it might get another season after this one. But I mean, honestly, there's no guarantee. The way CW has been axing things and whatnot, I don't know.
Dang.
I wouldn't bank in it.
Yeah, but I mean, I know they were the last one to start too, but it's just weird that's the one that's left standing.
It's just funny because at the height of all these CW shows, there was a point when there was 6 on at once in a week, and it was literally, oh, if you want to keep up with all these, it's going to take hours of your life in the week to watch them all.
I couldn't keep up 3. Once we were at Arrow, Flash, and Legends, that was it. I had to stop.
Sure.
So yeah, I can't imagine 6.
That was Supergirl, Black Lightning. Then you had Batwoman. I'm sure I'm forgetting other things that get added on eventually. But yeah, so yeah, there was a lot of things going on. So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed Stargirl season 1, season 2 less so, but still had some fun. It was more up and down, but I've not watched any of season 3. I hope it's fun, but I'll get to it at some point.
So is it already done, or is it still airing?
No, I think it's just about to start. No, I think it's airing now. It's already started airing, but it's not finished yet. So yeah. No, there was definitely a lot of things to like in Stargirl, especially. I thought it was better than most of the other CW shows, mainly because it started as not a CW show.
Yeah, it has a heart to it, that first season, that I really enjoy.
Yeah, for all its faults, there's a lot to like there if you like the characters.
Well, and I really like Luke Wilson as Stripe, so Stripesy. So he's got good dad energy, and he fits in on that show really well. Because sometimes the CW actors sometimes fell out of place. He felt right in place.
Yeah, but other than that, Matt, do you know what time it is?
Time for us to talk about books.
Oh no! There's time for something else first. There's always time for it. In fact,
Vanilla.
That's the TV podcast.
Shoot.
Running joke. No. This is, of course, your Comixology top 10. Everyone, we'll look at the top 10 as of right now on Comixology, aka Amazon Kindle, because that's really what it is now. But yeah, so as per usual, as with recent weeks, we have the Tuesday books, which are DC's books we'll look at, and then we can look at the rest of the industry from the Wednesday, because they split them now on the charts, unfortunately. But we'll get into it. So, what do you think number 1 is, Matt?
All right, so I had a choice to go here. It's definitely a Batman book, but which Batman book? I'm gonna go just because it's new with the Batman Joker Deadly Duo by Mark Silvestri.
Oofed, no.
Dang, swing and a miss.
No, Batman 129 is
There we
the
go.
number one book. Number two is Batman and Joker, The Deadly
There you
Duo,
go.
which notably neither of us decided to read because
No,
we didn't want to, is the simple answer.
I'm out.
Number three is Dark Knights of Steel, issue 8.
Tom Taylor prints money.
Apparently. Number four is Gotham City, year 1, issue 2. Number 5 is The New Champion of Shazam, issue 3. And then we get to kind of the rest here. And I say that because I feel like that's all the big books done. You get the Joker, The Man Who Stopped Smiling, issue 2. Or sorry, Stop Laughing, not Stop Smiling. I couldn't see the rest of the title. I was trying to do it from memory.
Yeah.
Number 7 is Poison Ivy, issue 6. Number 8 is Sword of Azrael, issue 4. Number 9 is Batman Shadow War, which is notably a trade, not a single issue. And then Monkey Prince issue 8 is number 10. So, I mean, obviously Monkey Prince wasn't selling particularly well, but the fact that a trade's outselling it on its week is
I mean, it is a
notable.
limited series too, so it'll be wrapping up soon. I believe it's out of 10.
Yeah,
So.
something like that, 10 or 12, yeah. The first Batgirls trades right after that, and then Task Force Z Volume 1's after that. So yeah, you can see the trades kind of sprinkling in there. Yeah, it is a later week for DC. There's not as many big books, and that's why you're seeing a trade sneak out of the top 10, because normally you wouldn't see that. You'd just have 10 plus, single issues that are big enough to be up there. But this week, I feel like week 2 was the quiet week for a little while, but there's a couple of new things next week. So week 2 is looking a little healthier, and week 1 now looks quite quiet. Especially compared to last month, because last month had like 2 Dark Crisis books and something else in week 1. And if you look at Wednesday, for the rest of the industry, mainly Marvel, of course, but maybe with a sprinkling of other things in there. What do you think number 1 is, Matt?
I'm going with X-Men Red.
You're right. Matt knows Marvel more than DC.
I didn't see the AXE event, so just go with X-Men after that.
Wise choice. Yeah, X-Men Red issue 8 is number 1. Number 2 is Secret Invasion issue 1. And can I just it's one thing renumbering the ongoing books that have always got a book, right? There's always an Amazing Spider-Man, there's always a Fantastic Four, Uncanny X-Men. I mean, there's not an Uncanny X-Men right now, but there's not a doubt in my mind that within a couple of years, Uncanny X-Men as a title will be back, and it'll probably be issue 1 again. And that's fine. I'd rather than renumber it, but whatever, it's fine. But something really irks me about taking something that was this, 8-issue event and just doing another book with the exact same title. It annoys me. Yeah. I don't like it.
It's not even Secret Invasion 2.
No, it's just, no.
It's Secret Invasion, yeah. At least when they ran Civil War back, they had the temerity to call it Civil War 2.
Yeah. Obviously, I mean, they've been guilty of this before. They had a Secret Wars event. It was the exact same title as the original one, but yeah. So this is a 5 issue miniseries. It's an oversized issue 1.
Can't imagine that it's not going to play into the Secret Invasion TV series coming to Disney Plus.
Well, I mean, it's not going to tie in from a Canaro.
Not tie in, but feel like the reason that it exists.
That's why it exists. Yeah, is they're trying to cash in. Yeah, you would say.
Yep. Which did you read the first Secret Invasion?
Do you know? I don't think I ever did actually. It
was actually pretty good.
It was one of those things that I'd read the first little chunk of Bendis' new, probably up to Civil War actually. And I kind of just sort of fell off there, but I always kind of wanted to go straight through up to Secret Invasion, and
it was pretty good. Even not reading his Avenger stuff, just jumping in with the, this team of returned heroes comes back, and you don't know if the Skrulls have been the other ones the entire time, or if these, ones that are coming back that look like the old heroes are the Skrulls, and then you get to the whole, Skrull extremists. It was pretty fun. We ended up with Hammer, with Osborn assuming control of S.H.I.E.L.D. So a lot of fun times at Marvel back then. A lot of status quo changes. And I can't imagine this will be the same, but hopefully people enjoy it.
There was a lot of things people really praised in the 2000s with Marvel, that first, that decade. Obviously Cap was on a bit of an all-time run with Brubaker and stuff like that.
This is by Ryan North and Francesco Mobili. No idea who either of those two are, but maybe this will make their name.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Number 3 is Hulk, issue 10. Donny Cates is on this book. So that's going. And then we got number 4 is Deadpool issue 1, new Deadpool book by Alyssa Wong and Martin Coccolo.
Let's see.
Yeah,
Coccolo.
It's a fun name.
Yeah, it is. Oh, the writer of Iron Fist. That's cool. I'm not a Deadpool guy, but I'm glad there's a new series for him.
Yeah. So then we have number 5 is She-Hulk issue 7. Which, at least they had a new book kind of out in the stands for when the show was on, which is nice.
All these awesome Jen Bartel covers makes me want to buy them, but then I was like, well, I don't have time to read DC, let alone Marvel.
Did you watch all the show?
Oh, yeah. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah. It was just takes. I won't spoil it. I'll just say that the finale went even more into the meta than I thought it was going to.
Yeah. Even towards the end, I have people that are upset with a certain character that shows up at the end, and I'm like, that I feel that's meta. That's them not confirming something, but that's a commentary on the storytelling at Marvel. So
yeah, no, I mean, there's a little bit of a toothless element because I think a lot of the stuff it's poking fun at is very true, which is why it was funny. But at the same time, I don't think Marvel's going to actually address any of this in any of the storytelling and anything else going forward, which makes me feel a little bit toothless in that sense. But it's like, hey, we'll poke fun at the fact that we do this, but we're not going to change anything because we're not going to, I don't. Anyway, but it was fun. Maslany was good in the role.
Oh yeah, she was way good. I liked Ruffalo as Hulk. Always nice to see him, especially as the combo Hulk. So, but yeah, no, I enjoyed it, and I want to go back and read the Soul stuff because I guess it borrowed heavily from that, and that escaped me, even though I love Soul as a writer. So, his pre-Star Wars running days.
Yeah. Number 6 is Punisher issue 7. That's Jason Aaron who's doing that. So.
What? I missed a Jason Aaron Punisher?
Apparently.
We're 7 in, and I did not know this.
Yeah, I didn't know this either.
Wow.
Maybe, I don't know. I love how, for some reason, when I clicked on the Punisher book just to see the details, the more items to explore section, because obviously it's just the Amazon page, it's all like lingerie. I'm like, why is this what's been recommended when you're looking at Punisher issue 7?
Well, let's just say that it's a very spicy clientele that reads Jason Aaron's Punisher.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
And I certainly can't think of anything I was looking at that would be basing this on my history.
Oh man, we had a Daredevil showing up. Oh man, I'm gonna have to go get caught up on this.
We got number 7, which is Hell to Pay issue 1. So this is our first non-Marvel book of the Wednesday section. Charles Soule book with Dave Johnson. I'm each the looks of it. Yeah, it's a book about cursed season magic, and it's got like a demon looking dude in the cover. Or even a devil, even more specifically. Number 8 is Avengers Forever issue 10. Jason Aaron with Aaron Kuder. And then you got number 9 is Star Wars issue 29. And then number 10 is Captain Marvel issue 43, which actually is still by Kelly Thompson, so that's a reasonably sized run that's built up with that. I read the first, maybe 2 arcs, maybe first arc, I don't know. I like Kelly Thompson a lot. I didn't like Captain Marvel at the start as much as I did, say, any of her West Coast Avengers or Hawkeye or any of that stuff, but it was, solid enough. I do wonder what the arcs since then have been like, because if she's gotten 40 plus issues out of it now, there's potential for some good stuff in there.
Man, that Hawkeye run was so good.
So yeah, that is the top 10. As far as anything notable outside of that, nothing's really taken my I really dislike that Predator cover. That's Predator issue 4 is at number 12.
I'm looking for it on here.
It's
I
just
don't
really
see.
90s to me. I mean, maybe if I click on it.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's very, very 90s looking to me. And not good 90s, more.
Yeah, not holofoil 90s.
Yeah. Not good 90s. But there you go. All right, well, there's a Comixology top 10.
Cool.
All done for the week. Okay, so, oh, everything flickered for a second. Don't worry.
Uh-oh.
It's just Windows being Windows. Nothing to worry about. Ooh.
Nothing to see here.
Did you have a good October, Matt?
I did. I didn't get to watch enough movies though, because work, BS, throwing in overtime. So, but it was still pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I watched 20-something horror movies. I watched other movies too for other reasons, but as far as horror viewing goes, I got to like 21, I think.
Yeah.
Tim, of course, my co-host on the horror movie podcast, got to I think 91. I think was the number.
Yeah. He was putting up on Instagram. He was putting his viewings up, and there would always be like 4. And as someone that gets home and is super tired, I can't watch 4 movies before bed.
Well, no, here's the thing. He watches half of these while he's working because he works from home now.
Yeah, I know. But he would put tonight's viewing on, and I was like, bro, I can barely get through 1 movie. You're sitting there watching 2 or 3. But yeah, then I just have to realize Tim's at a different level. So.
Well, what's funny though is that is actually a low amount. Because obviously we expected that when he had a kid, you can't watch as many in October now. His Octobers are going to be basically hampered for at least a decade, right? Until the kid's old enough to just be ignored. Right. But so that's his. He was like 200 movies a couple of years ago. Before the daddy era, he was at 200 something. It was madness.
Good Lord, man.
Yeah. Well, obviously my highlight was my vacation. I went to California.
Yes, of course.
But yeah. But October was alright. I don't know. Actually, on that subject, it is the 5th of November as we record this, so if any firework noises creep into the recording, just don't worry about it. I can't do anything to stop it, so...
I did not know, because there was not a bunch of Guy Fawkes posts on my social media this morning, so finally we've settled down.
Yeah. I mean, people just... It's just an excuse to let off fireworks more than anything else, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't really... notice anything else. It is getting cold though. Like this last week has been the first time I've oh shit, my hands are cold just all the time.
Yeah, it's been 40 degrees here, which to you is nothing, but to us, that's I've been doubling up on jackets to go to work in the morning.
Wait, hon. 40 Fahrenheit sounds pretty cold.
Yeah, it is. But that's when I complained to Connor's like, oh, that's still shorts weather. And I was
that is not short, because that isn't because 33 or something is equal to
32.
32 is that's equal to 0 Celsius. 40 must be like 4 degrees. That's not shorts weather.
When I showed up to go play football this morning at 8 a.m. It was about 8:30 something when I got there. It was still 46 degrees. By the time we got up and running around, sun higher in the sky, it was in the 50s.
It was
it's more manageable.
It was a little bit warmer today, but yesterday when I went for a walk, it was 0 degrees outside Celsius.
Yeah, that's too cold.
We're starting to hit the freezing temperature a little bit, which sucks. So for the first time this year, at least since February anyway, I had gloves on, I had my big puffy jacket on. It was, it's this winter weather.
One of the guys I worked with is from Hawaii, and he's not used to the cold. He came in, it was raining on Thursday. He comes in with what looks like a jacket you would wear to scale Everest. It was so funny to me. I was like, hey man, what was the peak like?
Did they have the furry hood? And
a parka hood, and it was a heavy like to go snowboarding in type jacket. And he's like, I get cold easy. I was like, no man, I get it. So, but it was super funny. This is only his second winter in Vegas, So he, still takes some time to adjust.
Yeah. So yeah. The run up to the Christmas season has begun.
Already hearing music. I took off Wednesday from work to go out and about with my wife for her birthday, and we were already hearing the Christmas music being played. And it was only November 2nd. So,
yeah. I'm, you know what? I'm cool with things starting on the 1st of December. Like, all of December can be Christmas month. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, leave November alone. Like,
yeah.
Have some non-holiday time between Halloween and Christmas to get used to normalcy again before you kick in.
Here we have Thanksgiving, which is my favorite. One of my favorite holidays, just for the food.
But you don't decorate for Thanksgiving. It's not
really. I mean, it's all just it's less spooky fall. So we still leave pumpkins out. We still have the same color schemes, for decorating. But yeah, no, I told my wife she can't put up the Christmas tree till after Thanksgiving. So we still have to wait. But yeah, no, the Christmas stuff's already coming. And I am counting down for Violent Night.
Do you know what we call Thanksgiving here?
I do not.
Thursday.
Of course, I walked right into that. Trying to think if you guys had an equivalent like Canada does, but theirs is in like September. So I didn't know.
Yeah, Canada just decided they wanted to also do Thanksgiving, but on a different day because it doesn't make any sense to celebrate the same
time. Yeah, and so no, the more I learn about U.S. history, the less I'm kind of like, oh, that's like not a story that happened. To the more I'm like, well, this is a day off. We get to spend with family, eat food, watch and play football, and then take a nap. So what else can I argue with? Sounds like a perfect holiday to me.
Too much sport.
Nah.
Too much family.
Well, sometimes I'll agree there. So
too much of these things.
On Halloween I finally watched Reanimator. Was not expecting it to be that icky. With the I don't know what I was expecting. Like, I know it's Reanimator, but like just the sheer amount of bubbles and stuff exploding.
It's more of a black comedy than anything, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I just wasn't expecting, that the amount of goo, I should say, in that movie. So, but yeah, I got to knock that one off the list finally. So,
yeah. No, I watched a bunch of classics over like Halloween itself, but I watched a bunch of new stuff throughout the month. What I would recommend to you, actually, don't have to wait for October for it. If you get a Shudder for any length of time,
yes,
check out Deadstream.
Oh, already did.
Oh, you already did. Okay, all right then.
Yeah, watch that. Let's see how many ago. Watched that like 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Thoroughly enjoyable. It's making me want to watch because I know Tim was putting over the 2 new VHS movies.
Yeah.
And I guess those creators have one, and one of them,
the newest one.
I can't remember.
It's just the newest one, I think.
So, and it was I wasn't expecting it to go full into what it did. I don't want to spoil it for people. I want people to have the same experience I did. But it starts to hit some certain horror movie trope there towards the end, and I loved it.
Yeah, I just thought the guy who's also the co-director, but the actor, I thought he was just really funny. Like the way he did this douchebag like YouTube personality character, I just thought was perfect.
For sure. Yeah, no, watch Deadstream. That was based off of you and Tim's recommendation. It's not very often that I get one that after Tim watches it, he messages me. And he's like, I think you would really like this. So, but yeah, watch that one. I just pulled up my list to see what else. We watched Night House. Did you see Night House, Pete?
Yeah, I saw Night House.
Yeah, I like that one. That one was wasn't expecting much, but that. Did you see Bodies?
Yeah, not yet. It's on the to-do list.
Yeah, we rented that one. Very much different than the trailer. Still good. Like it's kind of mid-level. But yeah, different movie than what I thought it was. So, which is a good thing because you think it's gonna hit certain story elements, and it goes a different direction. So, characters though, I was rooting for all of them to get it. It was one of those movies where you're just like, I do not like these characters.
Did you see the trailer for Megan by chance?
I have. I am excited to see if it is as bad as I think it's going to be, or if it's going to surprise me.
It was a wild ride of a trailer, because I went from this looks like shit to this looks so shit that I'm actually excited to see it now.
It's Malignant level, right? Like, I'm getting the same tone as Malignant from that trailer.
I could see that.
Where they know that it's this schlocky bad movie and they're just going to run with it. And it's from the same creative team as Malignant, different director, but Juan is producing. It definitely looks better than the new Child's Play that came out.
That wasn't that bad, though.
It wasn't that bad, but I also didn't feel like it was that good. Like at least this is taking that same kind of story and doing its own thing. Because
I wouldn't recommend it as a Chucky movie, but on its own, it was it was all right.
Yeah. So. But yeah, I got to see. I went out to the Monster Museum last weekend. Did I talk about this on the show? No, because we went.
I don't think so.
I don't think so, because we recorded after I had went. But saw a screen use Chucky that the guy had, because he's friends with what's the guy's name that has the rights to Chucky?
Don Mancini.
Yeah, Mancini. The guy that runs the Monster Museum is a special effects guy, and he's friends with him. So he gave him one of the ones to display in the Monster Museum. Everything else is there's a lot of screen use stuff. The guy works in a lot of B movies and Troma, but he loves it. Like, that's not like a downgrade. He thoroughly loves what he does. So there's a lot of like screen use Puppet Master things that he created, because he works with Full Moon a lot. But yeah, this was the one big movie thing. I think it's from Child's Play 2, because it's before he gets Chucky gets all chopped up and put back together. So that was pretty cool to see that piece of history. But yeah, everything else in the Monster Museum is the guy Tom Devlin. He creates from scratch, so that's pretty cool. Also, a Michael Myers screen use mask, but from Rob Zombies. So it was so cool. Yeah, it was so cool to see the shape mask, but it was Tyler Maines, not a proper.
I'm repping
Castle.
Michael just now, in fact.
Ooh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. But yeah, so he's friends with Kane Hodder, so there was a lot of cool Jason Voorhees stuff. Nothing screen used, but he has a section of the Friday the 13th area that's all of Kane Hodder's Jasons.
Oh.
So that was cool. He had a full display for Takes Manhattan, which of course I had to get a picture with. But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. If you ever come out here, we'll have to go out, because I think you would like it, just for the kind of low key and all the horror movie aspect of it. A lot of fun stuff.
All right. Well, let's get into the books then, shall we?
Sweet.
Let's get cracking. Batman issue 129, Chip Zdarsky writing with Jorge Jimenez on the art. So, yeah, last month was this was the episode that I did with Connor, because me and Connor talked about the last issue, and we kind of noted that this arc, and indeed this run so far, has been kind of interesting in that there's been multiple end of issue cliffhangers that have made me go, don't know how I feel about that, and then the next issue's like made it work. Like, I don't know how I feel about Zura and R, and oh no, this actually is kind of perfect what he's done with this. So last issue had this cliffhanger that Failsafe had taken over Gotham, and it was kind of like, Gotham was under siege by him, and it kind of made me groan a little bit, because one, we've done this a lot in Gotham with a lot of villains, but even just recently,
especially recently, it's like it's happening twice a year. Yeah,
we kind of did it with obviously we did it with Bane during the whole the Tom King run, but even after that, like, I feel like Fear State kind of had elements of this, and
Joker, the Joker War.
Like, I feel like we've done it enough that I don't think this issue, well, I think there's good things in this issue. I don't think it took away my groan of just what what feels. And the sad part is that I actually think as the issue goes on, and it just becomes Failsafe chasing Batman to the watchtower on the moon and coming after him again like a Terminator, even though he's in space. I was like, this is still good. Like, why did we need him to take over the city to do this? We could have just went straight to this.
It's just part of the story where Bruce can't be in Gotham, And like, but there was a way you could do that without him taking over.
Yeah, because I kind of groaned a little bit at the around every corner there's a Joe Chill. That was a part of the narration at the start. It's not a big deal because it's like most of the writing's good because Zdarsky knows what he's doing. But that was just one of those things where it's like you're referencing the
Yeah, it's definitely this. I like the commentary that Zdarsky's bringing about Batman that's gone too far. But in this case, it's an android, and then we get in. He puts into the dialogue from Bruce that every time, like, this is not the first time failsafe's been triggered because of something Batman's done, but it was Alfred that was able to shut it back down from the cave. And because of the whole scheme that Penguin played and Alfred not being there, this is the time that it finally got loose. So I do like that.
There is two things I like about that. One, the idea that this robot is kind of Batman without the humanity and everything that's wrong with that, you can kind of see on display. So if so without his humanity, he doesn't care about the family, he doesn't care about Babs and Dick and co. So you see this very cold version. This could be what Bruce is if he didn't have that side of him.
They're just tools because Oracle's being, she's being used as basically Oracle, but she has no free will. She's almost just like a computer program. And
then the other side to that is the Alfred thing, which is the idea that Alfred's the only one who could turn off failsafe or reset him makes a lot of sense when you think about what Alfred provides to Bruce as his role. This idea that Bruce comes in after a night of being Batman and he's too distant and cold. Alfred, until the family grew to all these other characters, Alfred was the one who kind of kept him tethered to humanity. He was this family figure for him that was keeping him his human side alive. So this idea that Alfred was the one thing that could shut down the cold robot side of Bruce is actually kind of perfect.
Yeah, I do love that. Tethered to humanity is exactly what I was going to say too. So, and that's why I always appreciate like that Tom Taylor Father's Day story with Alfred. You put that in the context of here, and that Alfred really did care for Bruce, not as much for Batman, and so he wanted to make sure that he stayed, not the little boy exactly, but basically his son, and Alfred served as that reminder not to go too far. And now without Alfred, not that Bruce has gone too far, but he's not untethered, but there wasn't anything there, to keep that failsafe from being activated.
No, but I think failsafe is meant to be this like the horror story of what Bruce could be without these other parts of him. I think that's kind of part of the point.
Yeah.
So you have obviously him chilling with Aquaman in Atlantis. Failsafe kind of realizes that Arthur's the only like superhero who's not kind of tried to come into Gotham. I did think it was kind of funny how they just kind of like in one line or two lines kind of like say, like most of the superheroes have tried to come and like sort of like rescue Gotham, but failsafe set up stuff to stop them from interfering. Yeah. I'm like, that's a lot of really powerful people failsafe's been able to hold off.
Yeah, and so because Batman thing, but here I'll allow it because it is the robot, So, but it's also to me too is like, well, the Justice League's like, well, nothing bad's happening to Gotham right now, right? So maybe we'll just leave that alone. Yeah. And we'll help Bruce elsewhere. Well, that's where I felt like Aquaman comes in.
I think it says at one point 17% of the heroes are just occupied elsewhere. So maybe that's the most powerful ones. Maybe that's why this is went so smoothly for failsafe. The back half of the issue I did quite like a lot though, which was Bruce is like on the watchtower. He suspects that failsafe is going to like destroy all the teleporters down on Earth, so there's only one left, so that Bruce can only come out of one door effectively.
Right.
But instead failsafe makes an attack on the watchtower, and it's actually this is the fun action of the issue is him like coming through space, landing on the moon, stalking Batman through the halls of the watchtower. It's just really well drawn action from Jimenez, a lot of like momentum and stuff. Batman's got this big electro sort of magnetic gun to try and take down failsafe. Big fun part is when Batman actually breaches the airlock or the hull, if you will, and failsafe goes out into space. He gets sucked out, and there's just fun stuff like that. The big cliffhanger though is that Batman tricks him. He kind of pulls a. Do you know what this is actually? It's the end of Superman 2. If you remember at the end of Superman 2, Superman goes into the chamber to like remove his powers because that's what Zod wants him to do, and then the little twist is that he changed it so that the chamber was the safe place that would be okay, and it was the rest of the fortress that would like have their powers taken away. So Zod and his cronies lose their powers. I've always thought that was a little bit silly because I'm like, wait, how can you just do, like? I assumed there was stuff in the chamber that made it happen. It's not just like.
Yeah, but it's also the same movie where Superman takes the S off and throws it at Zod. It's that weird cellophane. So. Well,
he doesn't take it off. He just that's just a separate thing he has. He still has it on his suit. It's not like he takes it off his suit, but
it's still silly as hell.
It's true. No, I mean, there's a few silly things in Superman too. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with that, but But yeah, whatever. So Batman does this, and I guess it's still a bit silly. I guess I guess I kind of buy it more from Batman because I buy that he's like opened up some panels and like engineered it with science, as opposed to like Superman in the Fortress and Superman 2, where I'm just like, what did he do? Put in the crystal into a slot and say, "Hey, Jor-El, reverse the polarity."
Yeah, here at least with the teleporter, it makes sense that he made it the teleporter be the bigger area.
Yeah.
Right? To teleport that area, not where he was. It's still a leap of logic, but it's one that I can follow.
Yeah. So he teleports Failsafe back down to Earth. And he gets immediately there's like a sort of net that lands on him because he was expecting Batman to teleport down. And the cliffhanger is Batman gets sucked out into space, and he's fine because he's got like a little mask that comes down over his mouth and stuff. But his suit's not designed to survive the cold of space, so he tries to get one of the jets from the watchtower to come and get him, but they're all disabled and
out of commission. Yeah.
So he's like, "Shit, I'm in space." He's doing a Sandra Bullock. He's out on the orbit of the Earth, and he's probably going to die, but not really because he's Batman. It's a comic book. He'll be fine next issue, I'm sure. Maybe Superman or Green Lantern will come up and grab him.
I'm fully expecting a Green Lantern since we haven't seen a Green Lantern yet.
Sure. Makes some sense. So I enjoyed the issue. I enjoyed the continued elements that I like, which is Failsafe being this Terminator. I like some of the kind of the way he's treating the rest of the Bat family, kind of like tying into this idea that he represents like what Bruce would be like, kind of in the way that if you take the soul away from Angel and he becomes Angelus, like the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
There you go, you got it in.
Yeah, you got a little bit of that here with that, and I like that part. This him like controlling the city and like the city's like in chaos or under like robot martial law or whatever. I'm like, I don't know, we've done this so many times recently that I just don't give a shit. Like I can't care about it. So
it also reminded me of Kingdom Come, where Bruce he's such a shell of who he was, and he has all the bat sentries that go through, and he keeps an eye on Gotham from the Batcave. And so I don't know, maybe Zdarsky had gotten some influence there. I'm not sure, but yeah, no, I agree with Pete on that one, that it was just a little bit too much. Especially in the last couple years.
Yeah. But that was a good time. Like I say, the art from Jimenez.
Yep.
It's very good, and it makes a lot of the stuff in space with the fight, getting sucked out into space, the teleporter stuff. There's a lot of good motion to it. There's a lot of good sense of scale, and it feels quite epic, and all the other words you want to throw at it, which is nice. So yeah, it's good. I guess the only thing I wouldn't like, I suppose, about how the Bat family are kind of been treated is that it does kind of make them all feel like they're all weaker than Batman, because Batman's going to have to save them all, kind of thing. There's a little bit of that, but it's it's Batman's book, so I suppose I can't really whinge too much about it.
I mean, Dick was Batman at one point too, so I feel like that should be that should throw Failsafe off a little bit.
I mean, Dick's at least trash talking Failsafe early on, which is nice. So but I say trash talk. He's saying Batman will come and kick his ass. I mean, it's not really trash talk, but
he's just stating facts.
Yeah, he's spitting facts. I agree. All right, what are you giving the book, Matt? Because I don't think either of us read the backup. So.
Oh no, I read the backup.
Oh, did you? Okay, what's the backup then?
But I'll rate the main story. I'm gonna give this an 8.
Yeah, I'll just about give it the 8 as well, even though I've got some misgivings about this Gotham City stuff. The majority of it is really good.
Yeah, the art's all there, and I also wanted to comment when you brought up Jimenez. He draws Barbara in a certain outfit, and it just cracks me up because that's just how Jimenez draws her. with the collared shirt and the
Oh,
vest.
sure, yeah.
You know, so that's been consistent. But yeah, so this backup is a follow up to the Joker, where he's got people like hostage, and he's telling them that his chemicals can kill people instantaneously, and he understands why. That's why they're afraid of him, because it's the people that he has are pharmaceutical execs, and so he's talking about like I'm looking through here because it's I read this early in the week. But he's talking about how uh, to be happy because they make happy pills and whatever. So that's where he compares his stuff to Big Pharma. Batman comes in and talks about how he's always prepared, but it's difficult with Joker because he's unpredictable and just a whirlwind of chaos. And he says like there's only one answer to this. Joker needs, and that's where the Zernar voice comes in and says that he needs to die. And it's him explaining why he has this creed that he doesn't kill, and it goes back to as a kid he's with Thomas and Martha talking about Zorro, and that his favorite part of the movie was when Zorro stabbed one of the captains, and Thomas explains to him that killing's not the answer, and Bruce's like, oh yeah, no, I know it's not real, but I still enjoyed it. So there's a standoff with Joker and Bruce, and he's killed all of the scientists except for one, and Bruce tells him to let him go. It's with me. Joker throws these smiler rings at Bruce.
Smiler rings.
Yeah, so they're like batarangs, but they're just smiles, right?
Okay.
And so he throws at the doctor.
I do, I do like the idea of Joker making his version of everything Batman has just to mess with him. I do. That's pretty funny. Like a Joker mobile, smiler rings.
Right? Well, no one calls them smiler rings. That was me calling them that, but because I didn't have a better term. But yeah.
So the joke wing. I don't know what you call the plane, but you gotta go.
Trying to think of like a punchline type thing before the character punchline. Anyways, so he throws these smile rings at Bruce. Bruce grabs the doctor.
Oh, that's his zip line. Punchline. Zip line.
Punchline's the zip line. There you go. But yeah, so he goes to pull the tape off of the doctor that's all tied up, and he has a Joker smile. So he's already been infected, and Joker goes to get away. Bruce remembers his dad telling him, there's nothing worse than taking of life. And I say that as a doctor because it's my job to save lives. And then Bruce starts to get it looks like he's being affected by this Joker gas. And he sees his dad take a big smile and says, unless they deserve to die, but do they deserve it, Batman? And it's Zernar talking to him. And it's basically Zernar saying, you got to do what needs to be done. And it's at this point that the Zernar personality takes over. And now Bruce looks at Joker and goes, and Joker looks at him and is like, you smell like him and look like him, but you're not him, are you? And Zernar tells him, oh, I'm him, devil. I'm the Batman. And tonight you die. And
I always like when Joker can tell that it's not, it's something like, I love that he could tell Dick wasn't Bruce when Dick was Batman or things like that. I always like the Joker. There is kind of this weird romance with him and Batman where he knows that it's not him. He can just look into his eyes and he knows it's someone else.
So in the way that Zdarsky writes the Zernar, like, so the letterer makes, the bubbles purple and whatever, but it's almost like a dark version of Adam West. That's how I'm reading it. And so going forward now, that's how I'm going to read the Zernar. It's just dark Adam West.
Okay.
So like here, he goes, and tonight you die. I'm hearing that in that voice. And, Leonardo Romero's art looks very much like Fornes doing the Rorschach stuff. So it's this very pulpy old school style. So once he takes the evil smile there at the end, it's very sinister because it's very clean lines, but Bruce is in shadow, and he's hunched over, and just the art shifts there towards the end, whereas these very clean lines and everything's very, everything's in shade, but not like it is here on this last page. So I would go back and read the backup. It's a very good story, Zernar. Did you read the last one?
No, which is why I didn't read this one, because
gotcha.
I got to I didn't read the last one, so that's why I didn't.
Okay. So I read that one just because I do love the Zernar concept, and it was Bruce weighing in on he needs this other, kind of personality to, to put his stuff behind all those impulses and stuff. So it kind of is like not a prequel for Failsafe, but kind of, you can see that's where the thread started. But yeah, so I'm going to give this back up also an 8. So I guess the whole book's an 8.
Okay, that's cool.
Okay.
All right. Gotham City, Year 1, Issue 2, Tom King writing, Phil Hester on the art. Nice to talk to someone about this, because I read it on my own last month. Because Connor's the worst.
The worst.
He is just the worst. He's shocking.
I got caught up. I read the first one. Thought it was very, very good. It feels like an old film noir, and for all the good things that come with that, and all the bad things.
The only thing I didn't like about the first issue was just the on-the-nose thing of the bat symbol in the letter, and them referring to whoever's kidnapped the kid as the Batman. I was like, I mean, I'll see where it goes. Like, because I'm otherwise really enjoying it, and I think issue 2 is also really good. Liked, obviously the art's phenomenal, fits the tone that it's going for and the style.
It matches perfectly. And Hester hasn't always, because I remember Hester doing stuff with the Justice League with Bendis. And not that the art was never bad, it always was like a fill-in issue. So it seemed to lack something. But here with King, the art matches the tone and the setting so well.
Yeah,
it's really doing a lot of almost half the work here, which is kind of what you want in a comic book.
Yeah, the start of the book is obviously the last issue was Slam's buddy that showed up dead.
His partner.
They thought that he. He's the kind of the prime suspect. So it starts off with the cops sort of like interrogating him, and he's pretty beat up and stuff. There were some nice details here that I really liked about how, and in this part of the timeline, Metropolis actually has a worse crime rate than Gotham, because we looked at this book even before it came out as though this is going to be the start of the descent of Gotham into what we know it as. When Batman first appears, was this crime-ridden city full of corruption and all the rest of it. And not to say that there's no corruption yet, because I think there's sort of hints that there is, but the corruption's there to sort of like keep this like facade that it's this perfect paradise. But it isn't really,
because I don't buy the police saying that there's only been 7 murders in Gotham that year.
Oh yeah,
only 7 that have been reported.
I suspect there's a lot of cops who are noting down, oh, this looks like an accident, oh, this was just someone tripped and fell out some bullets.
And it's like, they're roughing him up worse than the villains did in the last issue, to Slam. He's getting beat up by the cops. So, very, very good setting of the table of this version of Gotham City. And I did like that line to Metropolis. That Metropolis had 48.
Yeah.
So,
which I imagine isn't necessarily a terrible rate. It's just it's just notably Gotham is at least pretending that it's much better right now.
Right.
It was interesting. He does get let out though, and the woman from last issue who gave him Sue was her name, who gave him the letter, shows back up, and he's basically to get the feedback of like what's going to happen next, and she's going to come back and see him again later that day after he gets a nap. But the way she talks about this though, it's not like obviously she's the one behind it all. Like, these are dangerous people that are getting her to do this. Well, seemingly anyway. Obviously there's some parallels later on where there's definitely a clear implication that she's very Catwoman-y later on with the jumping across the rooftop and all that.
That scene got me, because when she takes the money and then she jumps off the building. I was like, oh my god, this just got dark. And then you see her jumping across the Catwoman. I was like, okay, King, I'm onto you.
Well, it was it's like you didn't really think about it until that moment, but when you see her land there with the short hair, you're like, wait a minute, she looks like Catwoman. What's happening here? It does make me wonder where it's going with all this stuff, because obviously the other part of the end of the last issue was that this is Slam in his ancient years telling this to Bruce, and he knows Bruce is Batman because he calls him Bruce a couple times.
Well, he talks about, he goes, and your grandparents, and that's what got me, So it's not that he was talking to Batman. I thought he was talking to Bruce, and then when the reveal happens, he's talking to Batman. So I was like, oh, okay. So of course, Slam Bradley would know that Bruce is Batman, right? Like, it's one of those things that I like that they do in comics. But yeah, I'm really liking this version of Slam Bradley too. It feels very on point, and from what I know about the history of the character showing up in Detective Comics, it's really cool that King and Hester are making him a hero of Gotham for this era. Whereas, he's just a private eye. He's trying to stay out of trouble, on both sides of the law. And it makes him very Batman-esque, in that kind of proto way.
Yeah, so he gets the new letter and gives it to the Waynes. And Richard Wayne is determined to come with Slam to the drop-off point, which is on this rooftop in the city. Yeah, I thought it was a really interesting thing here in the scene where Richard actually gets quite shitty and talks down to his wife and tells her to shut her whore mouth, which I was not expecting.
I was shocked.
Yeah, shocked. Shocked and appalled. But what I thought was interesting is that Slam obviously is against him coming, thinks it's a bad idea, and he tries to sort of reiterate this to Mrs. Wayne. And she kind of takes it out on him, what just happened to her, where she tells him to know his place and mind his own business kind of thing.
Grandpa and Grandma Wayne are very flawed human beings.
Yeah. I thought this was quite interesting because it was like, okay, this is a direct response to what just happened to her, is that she's kind of doing the same thing to him. She's asserting her power because she feels that she just got not emasculated because she's not a man,
but she got talked down to for sure. And treated with disrespect. I got the vibe from the first issue that she's the one that kind of runs things. And so for him to, that was the Bruce's grandpa try to assert that he's actually in charge, and it was just one of those things where she's just like, just let him have it. Because there's also the thing too that they tell Slam that he can't smoke in the house, right? Because Grandpa Wayne hates it, but then there she is also. So just kind of like she's this person that does what she wants, regardless of rules and stuff. And he gave it.
Could be setting up something for a twist later on, perhaps.
Yep.
There's also the other element that was interesting in the last issue, that the Waynes are going to be building this factory in the poor part of the city, where a lot of the minorities live. And when they're driving to this location, like, Richard Wayne's like, hey, you're friends with the black community, right? And that's not the word he uses, for the record, but...
Yeah, words that we're not comfortable using on a podcast.
But he's like, oh, maybe you could be like my inside man and smooth things over. And it just kind of like, Richard, I don't think I like you very much.
Nope.
Yeah.
No, it was this one where he's talking about, he tells him that you can have a purpose. If you solve this, you can come work for me. But also, if you're the one that's behind it and you've gotten it this far, you could also come work for me. I could use you. I'm like, what were the Waynes up to 2 generations before Batman? Right?
Yeah, it definitely painted him as this kind of morally very gray character for sure.
Yeah, which I do like, because again, as someone that studies a lot of history, when you find out a lot of the titans of industry, it's kind of like how they were, right? Like they get told in history as these heroic figures that did nothing wrong, and then you find out the conditions in Andrew Carnegie's steel mills, and you're just like, oh my goodness, we didn't learn this in high school, and it's very much like here. It's they're still very much human and flawed, but the stories that we get down the line are very sanitized.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of figures from history that have a lot of darker elements to them that they don't teach you in school. I mean, there's a lot of things about Winston Churchill that the schools notably don't talk about in the UK. I think there's a lot of demons in closets that I think should be talked about more. Not necessarily to like sort of change any of the good things that certain people did, but just sort of we can contextualize this and still do things better. And I think this is kind of a realistic approach here that, like, as much as we hear a lot that the Waynes are typically have been a good family and have done a lot of good things, it would be silly to not think that previous generations, as you go back in time, might have not had some more dated views on certain things or, or whatever. So,
they're products of how they were of the products of society and the parts of society they roll in, right?
Yeah.
So this all very much checks out because this is what's set in the 30s, 40s,
The 60s.
60s. Okay, so this is very much.
I only remember that though because I was that was one of my little nitpicks of the first issue, is that it said like 1961 or something like that, and it's like, oh, this is your grandfather, and I'm like, wait a minute, like if you I get that the timeline's kind of constantly rolling forward because we're trying to keep Batman from being too old, but if you said 60s to me, I would have assumed this is going to be about Thomas Wayne. And you're like, no, it's his grandfather Richard. I'm like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah. Well, so he just has some ideas of high society of that time.
Yeah.
And whatever. And you also have to think like, well, Thomas still though comes out of being raised by this guy, kind of not. I don't want to say a saint, but like from what we know about Thomas is that he's not his father, which is a good thing.
So, yeah, we have the big meeting on the roof. It ends up just being Sue who's up there. And she's not got the kid with her. She's only got an envelope, once again. And Slam, very beautiful couple of pages, this where he holds out the bag and the rain's pouring down, and then there's the sort of the silhouette or reverse silhouette, whatever you want to call it, with the white sort of spaces, and then her with the umbrella. And he comes back out into the stairway, and he's like, no, we can't make this deal. They don't have the kid. And Richard's like, no, we have to do what they say. He's like, no, like, if they're not even going to show us the kid, we can't just hand over the money. This, like, trust me, like, I know how this works, how this city works. But Richard gets kind of tough. It pulls out a gun and, like, insists strongly, shall we say?
Because as a rich white man in this era, he's not being used to being told no. Yeah. So he's just going to go handle it the only way he knows how, and that's to throw his weight around.
And again, this kind of comes back to this idea of if there's a power struggle in the marriage, that he's determined here to get what he wants by like using a gun to like force it. It's just like, no, you will not emasculate me. You will do what I say because this is I'm the father. I'm the one with the money. This is what's going to happen. So Slam goes back out, gives her the money, gets the envelope, and yeah, like we were saying earlier, she has this big moment where she jumps off the edge of the roof. Slam runs over, looks down, and she lands on the opposite roof, and she sort of looks back, and it's hard not to think of Selena a little bit. Obviously it's not her, but
it's very Bat and Cat where I run because you chase, and again I was like, King, I know what you're doing, you're drawing parallels here. But
it's like poetry, it rhymes.
There you go. But in this case, it actually does. But
the note says that the kids at the cemetery were like the Waynes of before were buried. I don't know if it was Richard's parents or his grandparents, whatever it was. So they rush over, get into the cemetery. Love the mood here. Kind of spooky. Rain's still pouring down. Baby's not there though, and Slam ultimately ends up having to knock out Richard because he's getting too angry and worked up, and he's pointing the gun at him again. So Slam grabs the gun and knocks him out. And that is the cliffhanger. Is Richard just sort of knocked out next to the Wayne gravestone, and
and what's on top of that gravestone?
That would be an owl.
So I'm feeling this is I think stuff's going to be revealed that the Waynes were involved with the Court of Owls. Here. They're being set up as very sinister. They're involved with Gotham.
But what was the court that have kidnapped the kid?
Maybe the notes that are being left, right, being signed by the Batman, they don't seem like Court of Owls type stuff.
I mean, what if they're mistaking the bat for like what if it's actually maybe an owl?
right. Oh, that's what leads me down those lines. So maybe the Waynes did something that have pissed off the court, and they're trying to take the kid, because I've never heard of Thomas Wayne having a sister named Helen. Now, granted, this could be retconned, and might not even be continuity or whatever.
Well, yeah, but what if the kid dies, and that's why we've never heard of her?
But that's what I'm saying. Like, what if, and then if let's say this is in continuity, and this leads to the whole Lincoln March thing of the Waynes, maybe a lost sibling. And that's what this is.
So it wouldn't be Bruce's brother, but it would be like
a cousin.
Yeah, his like cousin. Yeah, from
something along those lines.
From the Helen line. Yeah.
Yeah. So it just seems like there's a, just on the cover, that final page is also on the cover. You know, so like it's just that owl is so front and center. It can't be an accident. And I feel like it's foreshadowing of some type.
Very well might be. That said, though, if it goes in another direction, this is just a little, Easter egg of like, hey, the owls, the court of owls were always around, and that's why we're that could work too. But yeah, I think you may be onto something that they're. I think the idea that symbol that's been drawn has been mistaken for a bat, but it's actually an owl or something else that could be possibly mistaken. Is probably the best way to go, where it's like, okay, this wasn't that contrived then, it was just the characters mistaking what it was.
It looks like a bat, but it's also a creature of the night still, and yeah, I also like the parts of dialogue between, I think it was Sue and Slam, where they talk about the Batman, and she goes, I don't know anything about baseball. So just this is a world that hasn't heard the term Batman, and I really like that.
Yeah. Well, he's got the hyphen every time they say it as well, so it's definitely painting a slightly different tone to how they say it. Yeah, that's a very good issue. I like the interactions with Sue. I like the breakdown of Richard Wayne and kind of like showing the darker side of this part of the Wayne family, and just generally kind of the idea that there is this kind of bubbling in the city that is, this is going to lead to all the corruption and stuff that's, we're used to Gotham having it. I think it's kind of cool. But yeah, the art's just really good. It really fits this pulpy noir tone that it's going for. And the story so far has been largely pretty interesting, and I'm excited to see where it goes. So
it's so moody. I love it.
Yeah. Well, you giving Gotham City your 1 issue 2, Matt?
8.5. I
almost said year 2 there because it's issue 2.
Yeah.
I'll agree with that. 8.5. I'm happy to give that to. So, the new champion of Shazam, issue 3, Josie Campbell writing with Doc Shaner on the art. So this is issue 3 of 4. Of course, we're looking for the missing foster parents as Mary. And she's, dealing with the family. She's got this shard of... I was actually kind of surprised, like, later on in the issue when she's like, wait, this is part of a phone. I'm like, yeah, it looked like a phone before you smashed it. I don't know why you're surprised by this.
To be fair, Mary's under a lot of stress right now.
Okay, I'll give her a break. Also, shout out to the Big Belly Burger cameo early on. But she wakes up and poor Darla, like she's determined to help and be a part of this superhero team. And there's a big scene with her later on that's going to melt some hearts. But basically, her last issue, running away from the reporter when she was asked what her name was, has become a meme. She wakes up to find that there's tons of comments and videos making fun of her on the internet. And we see some of these comments, and we got some sexist stuff and some, she's ugly. Oh, we get stuck with Shazam. We don't have a proper superhero shit like that.
Yeah, a lot of commentary on internet stuff.
Well, do you know the sad part of this is that these all feel like comments I've seen just about someone else, or
about different characters. I mean, we earlier in the episode we talked about She-Hulk. A lot of these you could just take out Mary Marvel.
Oh yeah,
and it's a lot of the same stuff. So, but I do love that Josie Campbell is really has that vibe with Mary just being like, I'm so tired of this, you look at her and with the Shaner art is very exasperated.
I love the hair in this scene where like her hair's just sticking up all over the place, and she's clearly just like she's had enough of this shit. She's like she just so she uses the lab at the community college to investigate the shard of the thing. She finds the SIM card, and she even maybe theorizes that the giant croc that she thought was actually a human, obviously transformed, but the DNA actually indicates it came from a human. And then we set up this teacher, and right away I was getting my like secretly the villain alarm was going off, like ding 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 ding, like especially when she starts talking about how, oh, you and me, we're smart, we're just better than other people, we've got more ambition and more dreams, so we're better than that. I was like, yeah, you're clearly the villain behind all this, so I'm not buying anything you say, lady.
Like, it's so obvious that if it doesn't happen, I'm going to be upset.
Which isn't really a complaint per se. I think it was kind of, like it's very much foreshadowing. Like the final panel of this woman is a close-up of her eyes, and it's Mary's reflection on her sunglasses as she's saying the part where she's saying, yeah, we're better than other people, we matter. It's like, yeah, you're evil. Like, you're broadcasting it from the rooftops here.
There's that, and they're going to need a new TA, and she's just automatically inviting Mary to be that TA because the 3 guys that are her TAs, and I was like, oh, I remember when I saw 3 guys, from the issue before. So, yeah, heavy-handed foreshadowing, but still.
Yeah, and then Mary runs into Eugene, and like he's just it's not like he sort of plays it like he doesn't know about all the memes yet because he wasn't there earlier on. But then as she's leaving, she just sort of says, "Hey Mary, why are you running?" Because that's kind of the main joke, is because she ran away. I got a chuckle out of that. I think one of the things that I've really liked about this mini is that it's focused on Mary, but all of her interactions with the rest of the family have all been really enjoyable.
Yeah.
And really worked. But
it feels like actual family dynamics. So because that does feel like something a little brother would do just to tease her. Keep it close to the vest.
So Mary goes looking for where some of these people have went missing, that other than her parents. And it leads her to like this like old railway station or subway station I should say, with just lots of homeless people in tents, and a lot of the people that have been going missing have been homeless, which is why the police and so don't really care that much. They're just kind of like ignoring it. And she runs into Dudley, Uncle Marv, down here.
So are you familiar with this character from Shazam lore?
I mean, I recognize the name, and it's hard not to think Uncle Marv. Oh, the Marvel family, so and so on.
He's kind of been around, but he was actually introduced through Mary Marvel. So it's one of those things where they took a character, they revamped him for here, and he fits in super well. But yeah, his name is actually Dudley H. Dudley. So I do like that they worked that in, that he wants to be called Uncle Marv. But yeah, a very, very welcome addition. I like when they add stuff from old school Shazam, like when they added Taki Tani.
He's kind of the friendly like leader of the group who talks to Mary and says, "Oh, these are the people that have went missing. Here's some other stuff," and she finds some clues in one of the missing guys' tents. That kind of ties it to the trials that the college professor's been running. So again, setting up that she's the villain. And then a villain shows up, a guy who can basically, well, it's not clear immediately what he's doing to the others, but they're all like sort of holding their heads, and then it comes clear after we get a great Shazam page of her, suiting up and punching him in the face. Great full page spread. It turns out he basically like puts like bad thoughts in your head, so kind of working on your insecurities. So he just sort of looks at her, his eyes glow, and then I love what the art does here. The first time it happens is you get like so the sentence "what a piece of utter trash," right, is what's going into her head. But the way it's represented on the art, it's as if these like letters of the words are made of like rock and they're falling down around her. It looks really good and really gives you this sense of impact. And then, the next couple of pages do it in different ways where, it's either like on a plain black background or it's like they're all coming towards her head or something like that. But it's basically all the YouTube comments we saw before that were kind of making fun of her, but like really playing on her insecurities. And she's trying to fight through it and so on. Eventually she wins by punching the heart, which is where the phone is. He's got a jacket on, so you don't see it until now.
Right.
But she punches it with the hunch that if he's like the others, he's got a phone there that's helping him do this stuff. It's sort of this mix of magic and technology. And sure enough, that breaks the spell, if you want to call it that. And, but she gets woozy afterwards and falls down. And he escapes because of that. So, really good stuff. I think the big heartfelt bit of the issue, though, is the scene with Darla after this, where Mary is frustrated. She's struggling dealing with being this sort of new celebrity superhero. She's struggling being the adult of the family. She's struggling with the fact that Billy's not there. Try to find the parents, being super stressful. And she goes home, and Darla is like waiting for her, and she's like, "I've been doing research. We should do research." And she keeps saying all these things. And she's like, "Oh, it's great, you're back home where you belong." And eventually Mary, it all bubbles up and she yells out after all the stress, "I never wanted to come back." And like the next page, right? It's that thing where you see Darla's big eyes looking up at her all sad, and then Mary sort of puts her hands over her mouth. Like the art here from Shaner is perfect. It is the perfect way of like, oh shit, I just said something that's going to break her heart, and I've realized I've said it. And she runs off and slams her door, obviously, and you just get Mary leaning her head against the door in like utter defeat. And obviously Mary's not being selfish here, that she wants her own life and she wants to go off to university and do all these things. But there is kind of this moment here where she's just been thinking about how all this is affecting her up until this point, and I think this is the moment, you know?
Yeah, she's clearly overwhelmed because she wanted to go off to college, you know, be her own person. Yet she got pulled back into the family stuff because of her foster parents' disappearance. And so as she's trying to figure this out, and Darla wants to help, but she only has, you know, she has that little kid exuberance that gets kind of annoying.
Yeah.
And, you know, so we understand where Mary's coming from, which I feel like that's what makes it impact even more. Is, you know, I've done this before, where you're just like, okay, I didn't mean to say that. I was just upset, you know, just because you're being weighed down by everything else, and you don't have time to, you know, keep telling this person, look, I know you want to help, but let me breathe for a second and we'll get on this. So plus she's also like an 11, 12-year-old kid. You know, she doesn't need to be out there.
Less than that.
Yeah, is Darla that much younger?
Actually 8 or something like that, yeah.
Oh shoot. Yeah. She doesn't need to be out there right now. Especially sans powers.
Yeah, well that's the big cliffhanger, isn't it? Is that Darla sneaks out and runs off on her own and seemingly is going to be in a lot of danger. And she's kind of looked at the research that Mary's had, and you know, figured out a lot of the same things, because Mary left her research out when she was like, you know, she was looking at it before she went to sleep. And the other's like, hey, Darla's missing, where's she gone? And it's like, oh shit. So you really have one issue left, and I'm sad that there's only one issue left, because I've been really enjoying this miniseries.
Yeah, I hope this gets either an ongoing or a part 2. You know, I'm really enjoying this team together.
Yeah, I'll take sequels, absolutely, if they want to keep doing stuff. I mean, I expect Billy will be back before long. I think that was kind of spoiled in one of the solicits for something else for like December or January. But
yeah, no, I just like having the Shazam family. I like when we make Mary Marvel prominent in it. So just getting this, and plus Shayna art, like this is like the perfect series for him to show off the kind of that, you know, silver aginess that we loved in was the Adam Strange book,
Strange
Adventures. There we go. That he showed off in Strange Adventures, and it feels just right here.
Yeah, but it's very expressive still. So there's a lot of like, you know, modern artistic techniques being used, but it does also look very old school and Silver Age at the same time.
Yeah, and I feel like that's where Shazam's at its best, is when it's balancing that. You know, it's not being too modern, but it's not being too old-timey.
I think Mary's appeal, I was thinking about this, why she appeals to me so much more than maybe even Billy at times, but certainly the rest of the family. And I like, you know, Freddy's obviously great, and I like the ensemble. Darla's adorable and all that, but I think it's because she's the oldest, and there's something about that, like, she's on the verge of adulthood, and she's kind of burdened with looking after the rest of them because she is the oldest. And I think there's kind of this weird relatability there where she still kind of feels like a kid because she's just sort of not quite an adult yet, but she's also the one who is being forced to grow up by looking after the rest of them. That I think just appeals. Maybe it's a sort of thing where maybe that doesn't appeal to you as much if you're really young. If you're a kid yourself, maybe you don't see that. But I think there's this weird kind of you know, like if you've ever seen something like Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, you know, you've got the older teen girl who has to sort of step up and become the role model for the rest of them.
Right.
Or yeah, even like a show like the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where you've got this idea of the teen who's been thrusted with this responsibility and doesn't know how to handle it and grow up a little bit. It's very relatable and likable even when they screw up, because you get why they screw up, but that's part of the heart of it.
Yeah, it's not quite a coming of age, but it is them coming into a sense of self.
It's basically them being forced with some adult responsibilities before they've came of age, and that's kind of where the clash is that creates the appeal of the story, you know?
For sure.
So Yeah, so I think that's why Mary appeals a lot, just in terms of what her role is in the Shazam family. But it's cool. So
For sure.
all right, what are you giving a new champion of Shazam issue 3?
I'm giving this one a 9.
Oh, yeah, I'm tempted to as well. I think I'm going to go 8.5.
Okay.
I really liked it, but I don't know if it sparked me quite as much as the first 2 issues, but I still really, really, really loved it. So I'll say 8.5 for this one. So there you go. All right, Poison Ivy issue 6. WIllow Wilson writing with Marcio Takara on the art. This has been a couple since you've talked about it, Matt. So take it away.
So so in the last issue we had Pam coming to terms with Floronic Man, and Woodrue has, basically he's done this where he controls a lot of all the plant life because he's so tapped into the green, and that he took over the Lamia spores at the end of the issue and was going to make her cut her own throat. So this issue starts with her fighting back against Woodrue, and trying to get back control of herself. And it, with Wilson, playing this, it's a woman coming to terms with the person that kind of created her, and the whole reason of Pam existing as Ivy is because of Woodrue taking advantage of her. So in the meta context, this is Pam getting, taking the power back for herself from the monster that created her. And so as, she starts pushing back against Woodrue, and she gets back in touch with the green, and eventually pushes back so hard that the spectral version of herself that other people were seeing of her, kind of this monster version, he sees, and she ends up pushing it so hard that she brings the building down around them. And, she gets sheltered and survives, and has this realization that her plan was always going to fail, because you can't save the world by the way that she was going to, by basically making people do what she wants. She has to save the world by getting her message into the right hands and almost causing a revolution, by being, the point on the spear. And she realizes that she has to get rid of all of this Lamia spore, that Woodrue has, taken control of. And the only way to do that is to consume it, in which now she has to consume what's left of Woodrue, which almost makes like this weird, like we were already talking about zombie stuff, because the Lamia spores turn people into zombies that eventually, explode and become more Lamia spores. So she just starts eating this dead body, and it comes off as Takara's art becomes very, I don't want to say horrific, but it is icky, as she's just shoveling pieces. And it's mostly plant material, right? But we know this was once a living human. And she's like, this version of Woodrue's gone, but like other that escaped through the green, he'll be back. So it's just this vessel of him. And so Pam starts to trip balls, like heavy, from eating all of these mushrooms. And she, starts to have this inner monologue of the green is bigger than her, and bigger than Swamp Thing, and bigger than anything. The green's an idea. So I'm glad that Wilson comes along to the same lines that Ram V did in his Swamp Thing, of the whole thing as a green as an idea, not just as this, parliament of trees that picks an avatar, that it's an idea first, and that, her, she learned on this journey that, from the other people that she has encountered, that Earth's worth saving, even though that it's broken and humanity has done this to it, that, we're not these billionaires that are going to get to leave the planet. We're stuck with this mess, so let's start cleaning it up. And she comes across this kid, and this kid looks at her and is like, "Oh, lady, are you okay?" And she looks at him, and he's emanating green. And this is where she makes the realization that humanity and plants have a symbiotic relationship, and that for much as the green is just plants, humanity is also part of the green, and they can't exist without each other. And she comes up with this, that we are the green, and that's where she makes the I'm going to save this planet, regardless of who's going to help me or not. And so it almost has become, she's not an anti-hero, but almost an anti-villain. Is that like, because at the time also she has Batman talking to her. That's the thing I skipped over, is that there's this version of Batman in her head that's almost like the angel on her shoulder that's telling her that she can beat Woodrue. And that she's like, Batman has impacted me more than I'd like to admit, but I'm also not a goody two shoes. I'm not. And you realize that she's talking to Harley and all this, that the not the monologue, but the dialogue boxes are written on like paper, and that this is a letter to Harley where she's just like, hey Harley, I love you with all my heart, but I can't do what you did and join this Bat family. I'm not the same person as you. I'm always going to be on the opposite side, and I'm on the planet side more than on people's. But I can learn from you that I have to adjust. And so she makes the determination that she's almost going to be this anti-villain, and that she goes back into her van, and you see like these kind of plant creatures emerge from the back of the van as she leaves. She pulls up in Seattle, which was her main destination, and that now she's on a new mission, and that's to take down essentially the greed of humanity that's causing the death of the planet. And as we get to this part in the art, Takara's art really starts to clean itself up. It gets from that more shadowy, horrific aspect of her, because when she was with Woodrue and the Lamia, she had like this green growth that was kind of hard and almost mossy. That kind of falls off, and the art gets a lot more clean. And she becomes, the human version of Pam with a little bit of green streaks on her, back into the coveralls. And she leaves the van there as these, greenish plant creatures go to set upon Seattle, almost as, that's her army that she's going to use, and she's going to try to recruit people. But it ends with Harley reading this letter and be like, Pammy, I'm coming for you. And yeah, so the issue ends with it looks like Harley's going to start being involved in this book, and that Ivy has a new mission, and she's going to go about it. So thoroughly enjoyed it. It almost felt like if this was the last issue, it just would have been a reset of the status quo, from where Tynan kind of had her as Queen Ivy underneath Gotham, ready to pull it down upon itself, to her getting her humanity back and hating that side of her, to her coming to terms with, I am still human. I can't destroy humanity because that's us. We need it to survive, but I can go after those that are corrupting it. And yeah, so as an Ivy fan, I'm thoroughly enjoying Wilson's take on the character. I'm excited to see where this goes, because we knew from the solicits that she was going to have this new take on her and almost a new mission, and that was set here. So it almost feels like, again, I hate to draw parallels with Swamp Thing, but where Swamp Thing had that first section and it did so well that it got a second part. I don't know how much longer this is going to go, because we kind of saw in solicits that I think we're getting at least another 5 issues. So
it's going up to 12 at least, and
okay,
I think there's the idea is that they might renew it again for another 6 if it's keeps selling well. So
yeah, so if we get to 12, it'll feel like this is part 2 coming up, and this was part 1. And yeah, thoroughly enjoying it. So I'm gonna give Poison Ivy an 8.5.
All right, cool. That'll take us on to Dark Knights of Steel issue 8. Tom King writing with Yasmine Putri on the art. I will say the long gaps between issues, which have felt very pronounced, I have to say.
Yes.
It definitely hurt things a little bit, because as I was reading this today, I was kind of like, I was like trying to remember certain things, and I was like, okay, right, all right, so we have, and I'll try to remember. Okay, Matt, do you remember exactly who this Joker is? Because I remember it being a crazy combination.
It's the Green Man, so he's a Green Lantern Lex Luthor that's also the Joker. I
knew it was the Green Man. Okay, yeah, that's what it was. Lex Luthor is also the Joker.
Yeah.
Because I saw him at the start of the issue, and I went, okay, I remember the reveal of who this was, making me like cackle with like absurd laughter, but I couldn't remember what it was. And I think there's little things, the smaller things in that I was kind of like trying to remember through it. Now the broad strokes are still there. That's fine. The main thing here is that the Amazons, along with the Black Lightning Empire, or whatever they're called,
the House of Storms.
The House of Storms. There you go. They're on their way to start war with the elves because of the death, which they think Supergirl,
Jefferson,
that Zala, did. And we have Black Canary and Oliver Queen in the cells, and they start to bond. So that's kind of obviously tying into like, this is how this relationship forms in this universe, kind of thing.
Through Deceased, through this, I need at least just a miniseries. Tom Taylor, Green Arrow, Black Canary, because he seems to get the relationship better than most.
Oh sure.
And just their small talk through the cells, I just love it. Because Oliver takes her guard off that allows her to talk, and they thought I was a banshee. Well, are you? And it's those little moments that are really good. That he captures them well.
Yeah. So basically, you have the army coming through the forest, and Amanda Waller and Hurley try to talk them out of it. Constantine's pissed though, and he wants to just immediately start throwing fireballs. Poison Ivy gets involved and sort of holds them off. But that's when Joker, Luther, or whatever we're calling him,
shows up. Yeah, Green. We'll just call him the Green Man.
Sure, the Green Man. Yeah. He comes in, sort of deals with Ivy so that they can get through. And the elves don't really want to fight, or whether they do. Waller's trying to say, hey, we don't have to actually go to war. Let's just get you out of here, kind of thing. And Wonder Woman and Zala, who are obviously in love, go down to try and stop this army and talk them out of it. But we have the reanimated, Jefferson's son, who is, was brought back. That was all teased, before Constantine was up to his tricks to bring him back.
They used the Lazarus from Roz. Yeah.
Yeah. Starts making Supergirl choke, and this is when Lara jumps in, and it kind of feels like it's starting to de-escalate. Pauletta puts her hand out, and Jefferson's daughter's not really happy about this. The idea that they're going to do this peacefully, but then Lara, in the big shocking moment for the end of the issue, uses her heat vision to split Pauletta in half vertically. So she does a line down the middle of her body with the heat vision. And it's this glorious page, and you just see Wonder Woman scream "Mother" as the final panel.
Yeah. Well, and Zala's on that page too, right? And she looks shocked as well.
Oh yeah. So it definitely feels like it's going down the path of Yara's a brutal, merciless bitch. Is where it seems like it's going.
And remember, we had thought that there was the Kryptonians, and we thought it was Cal, and then we thought it was Zala. This is clear that it's been Lara the whole time, and she's been trying to egg them into war.
She clearly wants to fight. I mean, that's very clear right now. I mean, if nothing else.
Because Zala had told Diana that she didn't have anything to do, right? She didn't kill.
No.
So, had it been another Kryptonian?
Well, we were thinking shapeshifter before, right? We were thinking what shapeshifter could have turned into her, but I suppose it's quite believable given that it's, a relative that if she puts on the outfit from a distance, might look like her daughter, kind of thing.
Because then that's where Jefferson's son kind of is also he feels bad for what he had done, even though this was a woman that he thought might have murdered him. He is telling Constantine that didn't feel good to try to choke her. And stuff. So there's a lot of shades of gray being played here, but I ended this issue definitely thinking that it was Lara that's been trying to go to war for whatever reason.
Yeah. And obviously we're building up as well to Batman's big return, because obviously that was set up. He was with the Kents, and it's that was a couple issues ago now, so we're sort of waiting for his big hurrah to come in and help save the day. So I mean, I'm having fun with the book, and I do think it looks good, obviously, and the scenes flow really well, and the dialogue kind of pops. As I like to say, the Oliver and Dinah moments are really cool. I love the ending. I thought it was a brutal, they made it as gory as they probably could and keep it a teen, comic, but without making it that mature reader tag. They went probably as violent as they could with it, which I appreciate. It's not quite, but if you can give me a little taste of that Homelander magic, that when Homelander just burns someone's head off with his eyes, give me a little bit of that, and it'll sell me your Kryptonian villain for sure. That's probably the disappointing thing is whenever Zod shows up to fight Superman, is that he's if he kills a human, he doesn't just beam through them with his heat vision to sort of sell. No, Zod's an evil Superman. He will do this.
Right.
That said, though, Zod's not as bad as a Homelander. Zod's got more logic and sense to him. But
Zod. at the end of the day, with Zod though, is you feel like he's just trying to keep his culture alive, right? Through Krypton.
Yeah, Zod's more like he's like a military general. He's a leader who wants to conquer. I don't even know which leader in Earth history I'd compare him to, but he's.
Yeah. Either way, we're gonna look like we're gonna look stupid for trying to compare him.
Probably, yeah.
But I mean, when you look at the origin of him trying to save Krypton and the Science Council not listening, I always like that version of Zod. That Jor-El tried to talk him out of his revolution, but that's what got caught because they knew catastrophe was coming. I do like that one. It does make him a little bit more sympathetic.
Yeah. But, so I mean, I obviously have never been as in love with this premise as you have, and I do think the delays are hurting it a little bit. In that I like, because I mean, we had, and it's kind of weird, and maybe there's reasons why Putri's been falling behind or whatever, but there was that big gap that was kind of the intentional mid gap at the run, but it kind of felt like all of a sudden there was a big gap between 7 and 8 again, and 6 and 7 or whatever. So. Yeah. So it's a shame that it's maybe lost a bit of momentum because of that, but no. But yeah, the big beats were fun, and it's always an easy read, so I can't really fault it in that sense.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
So, all right, what are you giving Dark Knight of Steel?
I'm gonna give this a 7.5.
Yeah, I'll just go straight 7. I did really love the ending though. The horror movie fan in me loved the ending. I'll say that for the brutality of it. So cool. All right. Well, I'm going to talk about a Patreon book every month at patreon.com/MilfuzzTV. One of the higher tiers, you can make me read a book once per month. I have 2 from October to do. I was going to do both this week, but I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, and I couldn't stomach reading another book, to be honest. So I'll do it next week. With next week's lot of books. But American Vampire issue 30 is what I'm going to talk about today. This is the Dracula story continuing. We left off last issue with Hobbs and Felicia and the kid with these vampires that have been in hiding, not the Carpathians, which is the ones that Dracula can control, but this army of vampires are coming, and Hobbs is trying to convince the leader of this group to, hey, like, you can do what you want with me after, but we have to get out of here. We have to stop Dracula. And they're not really buying it. And the horde's coming. They've got a big, it looks like a cannon, but it's actually like a big UV light. So when they open the vampires open the door and they fire this UV light at them, it's like, okay, that'll hold them off for a little bit. But it looks like an old school cannon on a couple of wheels.
What year are we in this one? We're still in the 50s, right?
I think so.
The 60s.
50, I can't remember exactly, but okay. Yes.
Because I remember when it picks back up, second cycle, I think is the 60s, and then you have 76.
It's probably still the 50s.
Okay.
Probably. I mean, is there, other than the spin-offs, maybe, it typically does move forward constantly, so it was probably just later in the 50s. Okay. But so they bail and they get to a plane that they've got hidden. They've got a secret bunker, and this is sometimes these American Vampire issues, like, they'll have really quick sections to read through because it's just it's just the art telling the story with some action, and you've got the big doors open as they make their little biplane escape and they come out of the side of this cave and all the snowy mountains. It's all very pretty. It's all very fluid and feels great. But Hobbs is still trying to convince, because this vampire is like, look, no, you're going in front of the Vampire Council, which, by the way, What We Do in the Shadows, the TV show, has ruined anytime someone starts talking about a vampire council, because all I can see is their vampire council in my head now. But that's okay. But I was like, no, look, you made a deal with the Russians, it turns out, right? He's like, you made a deal with the Russians and sort of helped them set this up. But okay, and maybe the Soviets will contain them, because the Soviets are transporting them somewhere in Moscow, I think, and they're going to bury him and lock him down and keep him contained. And it actually turns out that the vassals at one point did kind of try to do what the Soviets are doing now, which is they try to kind of harness Dracula's power to see if they could use it in any way, because it would be obviously a huge thing to be able to use. But they realized it's not going to work, it's too dangerous, so they stopped. Basically, okay, let's say the Soviets will contain him, okay. Maybe it's better than what the vassals were doing under London Bridge. But you need to be sure, because if he gets out, if he's not secure, then the world is doomed, and you can't like take that risk. And the other vampires in the group kind of end up agreeing with Hobbs, and he's like, okay, we'll go check. And it's around here as well that Hobbs tells his backstory, so we actually get kind of Hobbs' origin, which is kind of cool, because he's been this reoccurring character since the very first arc. And it turns out he was a young police officer back in like the, what year was it? 1917, so just towards the back half of World War One. He was a police officer in London, and he encountered vampires at first because someone had actually, the Renfield of the day had actually successfully taken Dracula's body out of the bridge or wherever it was, and had it in the back of a truck. But the truck, ends up encountering the police, and they shoot at it, and it flips over, and Hobbs, young Hobbs, and he's got the stupid old policeman's hat on, the old British policeman's hat. He looks into the coffin, which is cracked open, and that's where his memory of that day ends. But the next thing he remembers is waking up, and he found out that in that time that he blacked out, he murdered his wife and child with an axe. And it's like, oh shit, okay, so Hobbs is actually a direct victim of being manipulated by Dracula. Like, Dracula just getting that one bit of like eye contact or whatever it was with the coffin being slightly open did a Jack Torrance on him, like made him kill his wife and son. And it's like, okay, so this is why he's so terrified of Dracula. This is what got him involved with vampires in the first place. Because he obviously he was he wasn't on the police force after that, naturally.
Right.
So he ended up being taken in by the vassals, and that sort of leads him on the path to where we know him from. But they ultimately agree, and I love the art here. There's a transition to, okay, we know where they're taking Dracula, this is the train line they're on, and we cut to kind of like a map that goes into these like just white panels of the snow in an event, but there's like one little line of blood, and then you see a lot of bodies like just really small in the snow, and then you sort of go up close and you see like and the red's quite muted, but it still pops because it's just all white, with little bits of black highlights here or there for the track or whatever, but it's mostly just white, and then just this red for the bodies in the snow. And but there's one left that's kind of crawling, and this is this is us skipped ahead to Hobbs and co finding basically all the people who were on this train. Like, Dracula has escaped, he is not on this train anymore. There is like Soviets waiting up ahead in the event that this is happening. Yeah, like, because they were putting them over a bridge on the train track, and they're going to blow up the bridge, which they do. So this train goes down, and like that's it. Like, they're done. Except, of course, doesn't matter because the Renfield character's already moved the coffin. That's why all these guys are dead. Dracula's escaped, and you're all screwed. And then it sets up its final big thing, because at this point, these vampires are like, oh, we just have to run to the west side of the planet because Dracula's reach only goes so far. We just have to run and be in the opposite side of the planet. And Hobbs is like, nah, that's not true, because he's trying to make his way back home to the island next to Romania, and if he gets there, he's built, they call it a throne, but what it basically is, it's like Cerebro for Dracula, where it'll amplify his power, his influence,
his presence.
Yeah. It'll amplify it to the entire planet, and he will control every Carpathian on Earth. And obviously he can directly control them, but he clearly has an influence on everyone. Anyone who comes into like direct contact with him, like, ends up doing. Hobbs' story earlier on, like, one little moment with him resulted in this horrific crime and the murder of his family. It looks like an electric chair, actually, and that's the last page. That's the big cliffhanger. Is like, okay, these are the stakes. Dracula's actually out now in the open, and he might make the world just fall into darkness if he gets to this chair, if he gets to this Cerebro style thing. Yeah, I'm loving this arc. This is, I won't say it's my favorite arc necessarily, because I think that the character work is maybe stronger in some of the Peril arcs, or maybe like the Survival of the Fittest arc. But I think in terms of like the stakes and the plot, this may be my favorite, if that makes sense, because the way they're building up Dracula's influence here, since the very first issue of this arc, they've treated him like, no, he is the coming of Satan. Like, if he is unleashed, this is the big deal that he is. And every single thing since then, I love the transition in this issue in particular to the train that he was supposed to be on, and you just get all these bodies in the snow. It's like, oh shit, no. Like, he's already gone. He's already, like, you wanted to check and make sure everything was going smoothly. It's already over. The train's already off the tracks. Not literally, the train's actually still running on the tracks, but, like, Dracula's not on it. So, I love that transition. I thought the art looked great there. The big plane escape from the cave was also pretty cool. Yeah, so I love all this stuff. Obviously I love the everything that deepens the mythology of the vampires, because that's one of the cool things about this book, is how it tries to incorporate all these different things into the vampire lore. So yeah, wonderful. Set me up for the next issue. I'm excited for it. I can't wait. You know, it's nice, easy 9 out of 10 for issue 30 of American Vampire.
I keep saying I'm gonna go back and reread this art, because a lot of this, I know I read it, but I don't remember a lot of it.
Yeah, I
like
recommend
the Cerebro thing, I don't remember, so I think I have it. I'm gonna check when we're done here. My last trade, see if it's in there.
It's nice to see, because it's I think I always remembered the first couple of arcs best from American Vampire, and then I think because I fell, it may not have been because of quality, but I remember like second cycle being hard to follow because there kept being delays or whatever. So I'm curious to get to that stuff now, but it's actually very reassuring to get to this arc, which is a bit later on, and be like, oh shit, this is actually maybe up there with my favorite arc. So that's cool. Yeah. Because, you know, they're not all, but, you know, Beast in the Cave is like one of the weakest things that the book's had. That was like a little 3-issue arc.
Yeah. I mean, Survival of the Fittest is still my favorite. Just you're putting, you know, vampires in World War II, and just, you know, Cash. I love that character so much.
I love the character stuff in that as well as the first 2 arcs. But I think in terms of plot, I like this arc the most. So.
Oh yeah. It sounds great. It seems very familiar, but I'm having a hard time remembering it if I read it or not.
Yeah.
So, or I could have just had somebody telling me at the comic book shop what was going on. But yeah, all the stuff with Dracula, it doesn't. I remember the Hobbs stuff, but I don't remember him building the throne. So that's why, I have to check. Yeah.
All right. There you go. That's the book. Which will take me out of the part of the show, which is where we pick our favorite panel / moment of the week, favorite art, favorite cover, and top 5 books. Or in my case, top 4, because there was only 4 I read this week because it was a quiet week, and I really didn't want to read Batman and Joker duo book. So Matt, what is your panel / moment of the week?
So I'm gonna go from Poison Ivy. It's when she looks at the kid who hands her, and she, you know, she makes the connection that we are the Green, that we can't exist without each other. It's a really good moment and a really good character, you know, piece for Ivy. So that's mine.
There's 1 or 2 things I'd be tempted from either Gotham City or Batman. You know, the conversation between Slam and Richard in the car, I think is really good. But I think I just have to go with the Mary upsetting Darla at the end of Shazam. Yeah. Just a hit real hard, and I have to get the props. Even Darkness still had the big gory bit at the end, which you know, given my taste, I could also pick. So.
There's something from each of the books I read this week that I could have picked. So it was a pretty good for big moments.
Yeah, no, I mean, my average score across the board was pretty solid this week. Yeah. Yeah. If my lowest score was a 7 and everything else was like an 8 or an 8.5 or whatever, like, you know. Yeah. Good week. Yeah. All right. Cover of the week. I think that Batman's got a Matina variant. It's the Zoo NR Batman, but, you know, ultra painted and stylish, looks really good. But I have to kind of go between 2 of the Shazam covers. Obviously, the main Doc Shaner cover is great. But the Jen Bartel one, I'm not always someone who goes for Jen Bartel, but I do think this one looks really good. And it looks like I don't think it's got anything to do with it, but because of the stars around it, it's making me think of the Paramount logo a little bit. Me too. Which makes it feel kind of old and Hollywoody, which I think actually suits the Silver Age vibe quite a bit. So that's my pick. I'll go with the Jen Bartel Shazam cover. All right. Well, so I had it narrowed down between that and a Poison Ivy cover, and you just made it easy. Okay.
There's a Jenny Frisian Poison Ivy cover, so we're back on the Jenny Frisian bandwagon. Doing Catwoman for a while, and we weren't reading Catwoman.
So what you're saying is it's a tale of two Jens for best
yes,
cover
Jen
this week.
Bartel or Jenny Frisian.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it was edging ever so slightly. So had you gone with the Matina Batman, boom, it would have been the Jen Bartel Shazam. But because that one is great, it made me think Pam as well. But yeah, no, the Jenny Frisian Poison Ivy is like a profile of Pam, and she's got all these vines coming from her, and just the way that it plays with the colors of her, and it almost has this gradient effect that goes from like brownish reds down to green. It's really pretty.
Yeah. All right, art of the week.
It's Shaner for Shazam.
Yeah, I'm going with Shaner too, but Hester and Jimenez were tough competition. It's not like they were slouching around.
No, and Takara for Ivy, but then that also Putri for Steel, Dark Knights of Steel.
Yeah.
Really good art across the board, but yeah, no, it's Shaner. It's so good. It's so expressive, clean lines,
Yeah, cool. All right, top 5 books of the week then.
All right, so number 1 is Shazam. Number 2 is Ivy. Number 3 is Gotham City Year 1. Number 4 is Batman. Number 5 is Dark Knights of Steel.
Yeah, my number 1 Shazam. My number 2 is Gotham City Year 1. Number 3 is Batman. Number 4 is Dark Knights of Steel. Nice and simple. Mm-hmm. So I'll tell you what's coming next week from DC Comics. And I have been keeping an eye out for issue 1's coming out from elsewhere that we might want to try. There is a new Fantastic Four book next week. I don't think either of us are that interested in it.
Who's writing it?
Oh, I don't even remember. It wasn't a name that stuck out to me anyway. Gotcha. So here's what's coming from DC next week, though. We have Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths issue 6, so the penultimate issue of the big event. We got Wonder Woman 793, which we did both drop, so it's not a concern to us, but it's coming out. Nice House in the Lake issue 11. So that's cool. Batman vs. Robin issue 3. Batman Urban Legends issue 21. We have Batgirls issue 12. I Am Batman issue 15. We have the new Golden Age issue 1. That's a one shot from Johns, which is presumably setting up some of his JSA stuff that he's going to be doing. So obviously we're going to be looking at that. We got Superman Son of Kal-El issue 17. We got Batman Incorporated issue 2. We have The Death of Superman 30th Anniversary Special issue 1. This is a 80-page, $10 book. I don't know if that's fitting into the schedule for us next week, but it is coming out, so if you want to have a look at it, there it is. We got The Flash, The Fastest Man Alive issue 3. We got Wildcats issue 1, which I think I'm going to look at that and see how it is, just because, Rosenberg, I think, earned enough to give it a try.
I don't know much about Wildcats, but I've liked enough of Rosenberg's DC work that I can justify taking the chance.
It's an issue 1, so I would hope that he writes it with the idea that a lot of new people are going to be reading it.
And I'm sure it's a continuation of his Grifter story, too.
Probably, yeah.
Because they introduced, what's her name? Zealot in there. So,
yeah. And then the last book is Multiverse 18 Justice issue 6. So, that's what's coming out next week. Obviously, Nice House in the Lake is kind of the one I'm most excited about, but Batman vs. Robin's been a wild ride so far, and obviously Dark Crisis is a hoot because it's wacky and big. Plus, a Jeff Johns comic, which is...
There's that. Dark Crisis, I'm excited to see where it goes. It's almost done, right? It's out of 7, right?
Yeah, it's out of 7, yeah. So
it's the penultimate. So
hell of a cliffhanger, probably, I'd imagine.
Yeah, probably a huge cliffhanger.
So, yeah. But that's what's coming next week. So, cool. But yeah, that's about the gist of the show there. I will take this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month. Thank you to Tyler Hesson, De Palacios, David Short, Board Now, Christopher Moy, David Brown, Al Tradesman, and Alison M. Fordyce. They are all in the higher tiers over at Patreon. But you can support us over there for as little as $3 a month and get some bonuses for your trouble. The $5 tier specifically, you get early access to the show. Whenever it's ready on the Saturday, whatever time that may be, you get it then, as opposed to waiting for the release time on the Sunday. So if that's of interest, go and have a look. And if you want to support the content, that's a way of doing it. You also support us for free by liking, subscribing. You can rate the podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast from. Give us 5 stars. Share us on Twitter. We're at DC Comics Podcast. And, just generally spread the word. All those things do help. So thank you very much for joining us. And maybe one day we'll see Connor again, but I don't know. I mean, no, I'm not teasing it. I don't know what. I'm just.
Yeah.
I just say maybe one day. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's all right. You'll see me and Matt again next week. For more DC Comics shenanigans. But thank you for joining us once again. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.